Welcome to Pivot Talks with PC. My name is Pauline Caballero, and we're talking change. It isn't coming, it's here. All right, welcome everyone. I am so excited to be here with Christina Drew. Christina is she's here with me in the province of Ontario, if you guys are listening to me local, and owns a physiotherapy clinic in downtown Burlington. Christina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Pauline. I'm so excited to be here.
I know, it's so fun. So Christina is actually our go-to for any type of ailments and injuries, specifically related to yoga and sport, because that happens a lot actually. But maybe Christina, you can give us a little intro of like who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I, like Pauline said, my name is Christina Drew, and I'm the founder of Kinetic Physiotherapy. And I'm also a mom of two awesome kids and a fur baby. And I guess maybe I'll share a little bit about my background and what got me there. So I used to play soccer at an elite level, and throughout my soccer career sustained multiple injuries. And that in combination with just having a fascination for the body. Like my family would always go to Chapters for fun, and I always found myself navigating to the health and wellness section. And I'm definitely not one that likes reading for pleasure. I'd rather play sports, but I would sit down and just find myself wanting to read chapter after chapter, and specifically injuries and how injuries happen. And then once I sustained my own and I was exposed to kind of the therapy world, I was like, I know this is what I'm meant to do. I just felt it in my bones. And so we fast forward to, I received a scholarship to go down to an NCAA Division I school in Georgia. And after my 4 years there, I got invited to try out for what they wanted to start here, a professional women's soccer team in Toronto. And of course I was pumped, right? Because I loved soccer. I, would do like tear my ACL and then get into rehab and do everything I could to get back out there. And then I tore it again and got back out. But what happened was, I had to kind of weigh out, yes, technically I can go out there and play, but I've got to think. I've sustained 2 concussions, multiple knee surgeries, and then a couple of other things. I know I want to have kids, and if I'm blessed to have them, I'm probably gonna propel the degeneration and potentially, not for sure, get another concussion and maybe worse than I got it. So I chose not to try out. And it was at that moment that I was crushed. I was known as the athlete. I played day in and day out. I had a soccer ball at my feet at the house. And to declare that you're not going to play anymore, and from a point of, yes, it was my decision, but almost, to be smart, I had to. I never wanted that to happen to another athlete again. And so my drive and my passion for going through with like physio school after my undergrad, I told myself, I'm going to do everything it takes to prevent this from happening to other athletes, to prevent them from having to stop playing their sport unless they want to, unless they're happy and content with retiring, versus if I get another concussion, I'm going to have huge, long-lasting effects, and that's why I, after physio school, pursued any courses that I felt were in alignment with not only getting people better faster, but getting them even better than when they first came in, right? Even just kind of giving them even more tools and knowledge to make them an even better player, to optimize their body and the way it moves. And yeah, that's kind of been my underlying drive. And then from there, I started working at other clinics and realized quickly that the way they wanted me to work wasn't in alignment with my core values. And I was seeing about 4 people an hour. And when I was busy, sometimes they'd squeeze in the 5th, which is nuts. It's insane. I was like, I got by because I was able to multitask.
Right.
And I was able to make each client feel seen, heard, get the appropriate amount of treatment. But I'm like, I just don't jive with this way. There's another way. And I'm like, you know what? It's time. I'm a year and a half out, but I'm going to open my own clinic. And, you know, I had no idea, Pauline. Like, you know, I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs. Like my family is, you know, there's a lot in the family, but different businesses and a lot of them, you know, males too. And it's a different dynamic being a female and then having kids. And we could talk about that later. But I just jumped right in because my passion outweighed my fear.
I love that. Well, it's such an interesting pivot, like to go from athlete, you know, and competitive athlete and make that decision and that choice to not pursue your dream, not pursue your career, and really look for a new direction in such a powerful way, like really being in the choice of it all versus having the choice made for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like to see that you had that courage even at that young age to choose your pathway. And it sounds like you chose your pathway as well in moving into entrepreneurship. What do you think drove that decision for you? Because it seems like you have a pattern there to choose it for yourself.
Yeah. I like, yeah, I kind of, I don't know if it's like, I like being in charge of my own in life, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of, you know, a very concise word or sentence, but I don't know. I don't know. It just comes out of me. Like it's automatic, you know. For me, I think once I know something, then I act on it. Once I feel something, and not irrationally, like it comes out of passion. It comes out of knowing what I know is right to my core and acting upon that. And I think that's what happened in both situations where, you know, there's always choices in life, and there's never going to be, there's never really going to be a wrong choice, because, you know, even if it's a like quotations around wrong path, or you perceive it to be a wrong path, there's always a learning in it, and you could always come out of it and pivot again. You know, like I think the funny thing, Pauline, is like your book is called Pivot. And I know that you were working on this before COVID hit. And then it became the word, right? And I'm like, okay, but we pivot so many times, like all the time. We pivot so many times, you know?
It's so true. You know, in the book, I talk about, you know what you know, the pie of possibility. And one piece of that pie is you don't know what you don't know. Or pardon me, let me say it this way. You don't know what you know. And I would say in your case, like it's almost as if you don't even know how powerful you are at making choices and choosing your pathway versus it being forced on you.
Yes.
Which is such a beautiful superpower to have, like really.
Yeah, it's cool. And I think you start learning once you choose to stand behind something, the universe will align with you. So why not choose powerfully, right? Like, why not choose then to align with, at that point, what your dream is? Like back then it was to make Team Ontario. Then it was to get a scholarship, you know, then it was to become a physio. You know, you're constantly choosing, and it's never too late to choose again. Like it's never too late to shift into something new, you know? And that's what I've chosen to do this past year as well.
Yeah. What are you choosing right now?
I'm choosing to follow my dream. So growing up, I was a huge Leaf fan. Okay. So if anybody listening has connections. And so back then there wasn't many, if at all, any females that they allowed to be therapists for pro sports teams, specifically NHL. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I love challenges. And I was like, I'm going to be that female, because I know when I want something and I put my mind to it, I will achieve it.
Right.
And so I had that drive, and I was like, it's going to happen. Right. Like, it's so crazy. Like, it's going to happen. But then what happened? My life took a detour. Okay. And of course, I believe it all happens for a reason, but I chose the path of opening up my own business. And when you do that, it is a lot of hours and work and grind. And at the same time, I also got engaged and married the same year I opened my clinic, the first year. And then I wanted kids, right? So it's like, I wanted it all.
Yeah.
So I did it. And I lost track a little bit, to tell you the truth, of that dream. It was in the back and I shelved it. And to be quite honest, I didn't say it out loud, but I think deep down inside, I was like, well, you chose to open your clinic. You chose to have kids. And that's a lot to handle. That's a lot on your plate already, with a husband who's helping your dad run his business. And so he's gone a lot and works a lot of hours. And a few years ago, I was like, wait a second. Well, Chris, what happened to your dream? That desire and that grit that you wanted to pursue, just because you have kids, just because you have a clinic, does not mean that you cannot achieve that goal. It's just going to look different. Right. So now, instead of being the trainer and traveling with them and working till 3 a.m, in the hotel room or whatever, there's another role for you. And you don't know what that is yet, but there's something else there for you. And the moment I declared it, and the moment I put it out and believed it and felt it, this past year, I've attracted so many connections of people that are either directly linked to the Leafs, or that work with NHL players or professional athletes, period. And I'm like, okay, universe, thank you.
Yes.
And now I'm just in that feminine energy of waiting to receive. And at the same time, still putting in the work and still, treating my clients and making connections.
I love that. Just that powerful manifestation.
Yes.
And stating what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. Well, if there's anyone listening that can support Chris in her dreams, this is it.
Yeah.
We'll get her contact information in the show notes. So please make sure to follow her and send her a message. I love that.
Yeah.
You and I were talking kind of before the show, and you were sort of updating me on everything that you've been dealing with this year. And I'm very inspired by your journey and your positive outlook. But I know COVID-19 and the pandemic hitting, and now we're a year from when we first went into lockdown. Maybe you can share a little bit of some of the choices that you've had to make this year and how that really worked for you or hasn't worked for you.
For sure. So back, a year ago, when it first, when there was rumblings of it, I was like, okay, I thought back then, like a flu, right? I trust my immune system. I'm like, we're okay, guys, we're going to get through this. And, it became apparent that, we were all going to do this together and close. And so as a team, we chose to close. And at that time, I was very hopeful that in 2 weeks we'd be able to reopen. So I took that time, instead of worrying, it was nice out. I went for multiple walks, rollerblades, bike rides with my kids. Just enjoyed, I actually got to do some virtual workouts, right? Which sometimes is few and far between at times. And I just took that moment to kind of replenish myself. And then when it was, a fact that we were going to stay closed and what seemed like, realistically more than even a month, I had to make the hard decision. And there wasn't much else I could do, but I had to temporarily lay off my staff. And there's a lot of weight that came with that, because it's almost like you feel this sense of responsibility for your people, right? Your team and their livelihood. And I knew, though, that they'd at least be supported with, back then, I think it was CERB or EI. Right. And so at that time, shortly after we got word that chiros and physios were able to see emergency clients. And so that would be me, because obviously just being, a sole proprietorship and self-employed, like I stayed on for those emergency clients. And I was grateful enough and lucky enough to have linked arms with this wonderful woman within our profession that started this mastermind group almost right when we closed, to be there to support one another, to uplift one another. And through that, I learned about the potential for virtual care. Right. And I'm not really technological savvy. However, again, you do what it takes, right? Like, there's no option for me. I do whatever it takes to help my people. So if that means learning how to do virtual and not having the perfect setup and putting the laptop on my couch just so I can help somebody get out of pain, because I know what that feels like to live in pain or to not be able to do what you love doing, then I'm going to do it. And I did the combination of emergency clients in clinic and at-home virtual therapy. And in the meantime, in the background, I was starting to prep my clinic for when we were able to reopen. I connected with other provinces, clinicians in other provinces that were already opening. Okay, what are they telling you? Because we're more than likely going to have to do the same thing. So we shifted back into clinic while still offering virtual therapy, at a lower capacity, and slowly kind of bringing everybody back on board. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're lucky that during the second lockdown, they kept clinics open. So we just continued operating, being very diligent with our protocols. And, it's funny because through that, again, it depends on what lens you look through things. I could have been like, oh my God, this is awful, and it's hard. Okay. Like, I had some breakdowns, but you know what? Now I would have never brought virtual therapy into my clinic had this not happened. And I had people from North York that heard about me that wanted to come see me, but it was too far. Right. And now at least they were able to get my advice or have me see them virtually and at least start giving them some things that they could start doing, and now I've acquired this network of clinicians that are like-minded that I can call if I have questions. That wouldn't have happened, I don't believe, if this didn't happen.
Right. And will you maintain that whole piece of virtual therapy?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because then you can connect with even more people, and I think this past year too, we talked about me going back to achieving my goal of working with professional athletes. And what's been bubbling up inside of me is this need to affect or have an impact on an even greater amount of people. How can I impact even more people than the people that just come into the clinic? And this is a way. Yeah.
Absolutely, to expand your reach.
Yes.
It's amazing, isn't it, how when forced to pivot what one does and the innovation that's available when all things are sort of come to a head. I mean, in this past year, Christina, what would you say is some of your deepest lessons?
Deepest lessons. So it would be well, I didn't share this, but I'll say it quickly. On top of COVID and homeschooling two littles, I had a lot of loss, not due to COVID. It was unfortunately just, unforeseen circumstances. We lost a lot of family members, close family members. Mm-hmm. And from that, I learned that we're not guaranteed a specific amount of time on this earth.
Right.
And for me, that drives me to make sure I continue to savor each moment, to enjoy the process, and to chase after my dreams.
Right.
Regardless of age or circumstances or whatever, you at least give it a good try, at least try.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm so sorry for your loss. And it sounds like just the lesson of not waiting and of living life fully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know it's interesting. This week I've really looked at shifting my language to, instead of I have to, I get to. Like I get to.
Mm-hmm.
I get to make lunches. I get to prep everyone. I get to handle the household while my husband's working. I get to.
Yeah.
And just really looking at shifting my perspective and looking at that.
And so how does it make you feel when you do that?
Yeah, it gives me a lot more space, and really celebrate the beauty of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it too. I'd say I'd invite everybody to shift their lens, right? Because it does provide that space. For those that had to do homeschooling, it was friggin' frustrating. Okay. But I had to step back and say, you know what? Okay, I get to watch my kids participate and listen to them interact. We get to go for a walk together on lunch break. It is that. And I think it's very helpful. I think there's lessons in it. And I think if you can shift the lens and shift the languaging, the more you do it, the more it becomes automatic, and circumstances then become a little bit lighter. We don't take life as seriously. It's already hard enough what everybody's going through. And so if we can kind of shift or try to, I promise it helps make things lighter.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, Christina, I'm so inspired by the power of choice and the way you've chosen to utilize that all throughout the trajectory of your life. And I'm super excited to continue to see how you grow and expand. And and I really feel settled with this too shall pass.
Yes.
Using it in a powerful way.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Pauline. They can't see you, but I can. And I'm so grateful. So grateful to be connected.
Ditto. Well, for anyone that's looking to follow Christina, and you can also do virtual therapy sessions. I learned something new today right here. We'll make sure that we have all of Christina's contact information in the show notes, and check her out for sure. You don't have to be in Ontario, Canada to utilize her as a therapist. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you.